We often assume political arguments fail because one person is just misinformed. But what if the problem is much, much deeper than that? What if good, intelligent people are guided by entirely different moral instincts? Welcome to Crisis in Perception. In this explainer, we're diving into the psychological system described in Jonathan Haidt's landmark book, The Righteous Mind, which offers a powerful new way to understand our divisions.
We've all been there, right? That feeling of just hitting a brick wall in a political conversation where it feels like you and the other person are speaking completely different languages. It's beyond frustrating. And let's be honest, it seems to be getting worse every year.
So why does this happen? Well, the easy answer, the one we all kind of jump to, is that the other side must be ignorant or stubborn or heck, maybe even evil. But what if there's a more fundamental reason our disagreements feel so impossible? What if we're not seeing the whole picture?
Haidt's work gives us this profound diagnosis of our current moment because it shifts the focus away from what people think and zooms in on how they think, feel, and intuit their way to their moral judgments in the first place.
Okay, so let's get right into it with Haidt's core diagnosis. It all starts with a pretty revolutionary idea about how the human mind actually makes moral decisions. This is Haidt's first principle, and honestly, it flips common sense completely on its head. We like to think our moral judgments come from careful, rational thought. But they don't. They burst forth from our deep-seated intuitions, our gut feelings. Our reasoning, well, that shows up after the fact to explain the feeling we already have.
To make this idea really concrete, he uses this brilliant metaphor that is absolutely central to his entire framework. He asks us to think of our mind as a small rider sitting on top of a giant elephant.
So the elephant is our intuition. It's this vast, ancient, and incredibly powerful system of automatic processes, emotions, and gut feelings that's been shaped by millions of years of evolution. The elephant is really the one running the show.
And the rider? Well, that's our conscious, controlled reasoning. The rider thinks he's in charge, but he's tiny compared to the elephant. His main job isn't to guide the elephant, it's to act as its spokesperson, its press secretary, justifying every choice the elephant makes to the outside world. It's a PR firm, not a president.
So if our intuitions, our elephants, are really in charge, the next big question is pretty obvious, right? Why do our elephants lean in such different directions?
This brings us to Haidt's second principle. He argues that the moral world is much, much broader than we usually think. And to explain this, he uses another powerful analogy. He compares our moral sense to a tongue with 6 distinct taste receptors.
These are the 6 moral foundations. Think of them as universal psychological systems shaped by evolution to solve recurring social challenges. Every culture, every political group uses these foundations to build its unique moral world. But, and this is the absolute key, they don't all use them equally.
Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting. Haidt's research shows that different political ideologies build on these foundations in predictable ways. So as you can see here, liberals tend to build their morality primarily on the care, fairness, and liberty foundations. Conservatives, by contrast, rely on all 6, placing a much higher value on loyalty, authority, and sanctity. It creates a broader, but fundamentally different moral palette.
So what happens when you have these different moral palettes out in the world? Well, this brings us to our intensely groupish human nature and the political landscape we all see today.
This is Haidt's third and final principle, and it's a really powerful one. Morality isn't just about individual choices. Its primary purpose, from an evolutionary point of view, was to help us cooperate in groups, to bind us together into teams.
And here's how that works. Our shared moral foundations act like a kind of social glue. We rally around these common values and we form ideological teams. Being part of that team then reinforces our initial intuitions, and we create these stories that justify our team's worldview. It's an incredibly powerful feedback loop.
But here's the catch. The very same moral systems that bind us together so effectively also blind us. They make it incredibly difficult, sometimes even impossible, to understand the moral worlds of other teams. We become trapped inside our own moral matrix. So the crucial point here is that this whole framework completely changes how we should think about political disagreement. It gives us a brand new lens to see through. We can move from seeing disagreement as this battle between good and evil or truth and ignorance to seeing it as a clash between different but often equally valid moral frameworks. Our opponents aren't necessarily dumb or malicious. Their elephants are just responding to a different set of moral tastes. And this just brilliantly illustrates why simply throwing more facts at someone almost never changes their mind. You're talking to their rider, but it's the elephant you really need to persuade. Understanding this doesn't magically solve our problems, but it gives us a diagnosis. It helps us understand the nature of the game we're all playing.
And that leaves us with this final, essential question. If our conscious reasoning is just a press secretary for our intuitive elephant, then direct, logical arguments are often just destined to fail. So what does a more productive conversation, one that actually speaks to the elephant, truly look like? Understanding the hidden architecture of our moral minds doesn't give us easy answers, but it's the first real step toward having that conversation at all.